All right. Welcome to Inside the Grind podcast, the podcast for people building real coffee shops. Every episode, we sit down with someone who's deep in the day to day, hiring, fixing, worrying, making hard choices, and still showing up to serve. These are honest stories from founders in the thick of it. No fluff, no ego, just the real grind and what's getting them through. If you're building something on your blog, this one's for you. Brought to you by Coffee Futures Fund. There's so many things that having that global perspective and bringing that to an individual market brings us so many things. And in terms of just service and even the product and the way you do retail, there are things that are not being done effectively that could be done is what we have seen globally. Do you remember, or would you like to share a couple of things that comes top of mind for you? People are not doing this, but if people were doing this or being more focused on this, it would be immensely powerful.
Yeah, it's all very individual. I think the biggest, broadest trends, business is harder than ever. So being stuck in the middle of doing average product, average price, average whatever, that is not a good strategy. Probably an easy way, an easy way to put this is most markets will have an idea of what a cafe looks like, right? It's probably influenced by the chain, maybe Central Perk and Friends, like that idea of what a cafe looks like. That is not the business model to follow, because it's either being done by someone already really well with more money, more energy, more staff, more experience than you, or it's so expected, it's so that no one will remember. So you have to do something different. And I think there's two broad opportunities. One, which I'm seeing huge success with, particularly in Asia. And there are reasons why it's mostly in Asia based on when coffee is consumed, what kind of coffee product is the most consumed thing. But super convenience. So low labor, high quality. Quality is a choice, right? So you can say whatever kind of coffee you want, whatever quality you want, there's a market for it. And just the price value needs to add up. But super convenient, maybe super automated. So reducing labor cost, high volume service, right? That bundle of ideas is really powerful. And there are really interesting businesses developing all over the world that deliver convenience and quality in the right package for the right customer groups. And I think there's huge opportunities for that, and huge untapped opportunities for that in Europe and the US, the more established markets, because coffee has kind of fired its furrow in this middle space. And I see this both chains succeeding at doing that right now, right? So if it's the Starbucks or the Dunkins, if it's the drive-through business, like these kind of narratives are really interesting. There's a way of optimizing that in interesting, new, exciting ways, tying that with software, technology, AI, whatever. That's one angle. And then there's another angle, which is experiential, which is probably lower volume, higher value. It doesn't need to be the craziest, weirdest thing, but one angle ties into removing the complexity and making things simple and fast and tidy and easy and good. And then the other one, I think, ties into making things human. So acknowledging that part of what people buy when they buy coffee is they buy the 30 seconds of human contact with someone. And if you can reinforce the value of that, if you can build your business around that connection, that moment, that time. And again, chains are quite good at doing this, right? They ask you a name for a reason. Sometimes they execute it really well, and it often depends on the individual barista, the human. Sometimes they mean it, right? And you feel special. And that can be in a train station kiosk where you will never see them again, and the brand is completely generic and whatever, but the service is just delivered honestly. Or it can be a small independent that really focus on that, and that becomes their USP compared to all the chains from other towns or other countries that are present in their market. That's why people go back. And that can be tied to the coffee. It doesn't need to be coffee, but I think as so much more of our work and our lives are automated and convenient, but there is a great opportunity for that human moment element. And the further we can push that in different directions, the more unique and diverse our retail landscape will be. The only challenge with that, particularly in more established markets where some of the economics are harder, is providing human connection in a way that people will pay for it, right? It's laborious. It's emotionally draining to care about people or to care about products. I think care is that super important word around here, because you can be caring about the customers, you can be caring about the ingredients, which customers might care about buying from businesses that care about the ingredients. But you have to monetize it to make it successful. So you have to at some point charge for that extra labor or
Yeah.
emotional labor, whatever it is. And when you're fighting against the convenient price points or the ones in the middle where they don't offer that extra special thing, can you charge enough to get it? And that's going to depend on, the cost of labor, the cost of wages of staff, the willingness of them to do that extra work, which is the cost of recruitment because it's recruiting and training people in the right way and whatever. Again, leading with the heart. I believe that people will pay for that if it's genuine and if it's honest. And I think you can do that in a small scale, in a
Yeah.
profitable way. And I think you can do that in a grand scale. Um, I think big businesses can do that. I think startups
Okay.
have more advantages in doing that because they're building their business and their story and their concept and their price point and, how much they're spending on seating and space and how much they're spending on
Yeah.
people. So you can build any of these concepts from zero right now. If you're an existing business, it's harder to shift customers' perception of what you do, but also the fundamentals of your business model. So I think it's easier for new businesses to step into these spaces. But fundamentally, I think that transition between those two directions is important
Mhm.
because, and I'm sure all of our mentors would agree on this. They've all been in different size businesses. A lot of business success is about right size, right? So you can set up a business that is designed to make, 500,000 turnover cafe or a 50 million turnover multi-site or grocery business to business. Both of those are possible. And it's kind of easy on paper to design the infrastructure and the needs of both of those businesses, but they're different. And if I'm the engine for the,
Mhm.
say, 50 million turnover business and you put that in your 500,000 cafe, it's going to fail, right? Too many staff, big plan that's too big for it. The same way, if you end up being a 50 million turnover business with the infrastructure for a tiny cafe, you're going to break, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to fail to provide the service and the quality that you expect. And so being really clear about your goals is really important, and building the right engine and the right systems for that goal to achieve that goal is really important. So if you're building a business around human connection, build the business around that. If you're building it around automation, build it around that. And both are fine. Both are fine. The problem with business sustainability is if you're after one thing, but you build it for the other, or if you're trying to transition from one to the other and you don't have the room and space to do
Yeah. Wow. That was a masterclass for me. So
that.
I wholeheartedly
Okay.
agree. It was,
But you say that,
yeah.
but you've worked in lots of other industries. And again, how I've expressed that, would you see connections with that in other industries? Like, is it more easy to see that in other industries than it is?
So your question is, are you seeing that those connections or trends in other
Like
industries also?
if we were talking about the finance industry, let's go with the finance industry. If we're talking about the finance industry, do you see that same problem with small firms that want to be big firms? So they build the infrastructure to be a big firm without the customer base, or the opposite side, right? Like these are business fundamentals. And I think, bringing all the way back around to the CFF is like, there are so many beautiful, passionate people setting up businesses in coffee. And I want them to succeed, but a lot of them have not had, uh, the, let's say, formal training or academic training. They're not coming from a business degree. A lot of them are young, right? They're young. It's often a first or second business that someone's setting up. And so they haven't learned from mistakes they've made either with their money or with somebody else's, right? And it's not a huge, I think it is rare for a coffee business to become a huge, like, profit generator. You're printing, right? A lot of people on the outside will see coffee as, oh, your margins are really high, so this is a way to make gold. It's not. It's a hard business to make a small amount of money, but it can be a good amount of money, and it can be a powerful business. I believe if you get it right, but it is really easy to lose.
Mhm.
And I think starting with some of that fundamental training, support, and advice that you would get if you were spending 20 years working in somebody else's business, but most people don't have the opportunity to do both, right? They get a career working for a company, whatever, they spend 20 years doing that and they're done, or they set up their business and maybe they make it through the 20 years and they learn some of those things and I would have done it differently if I knew this now. And I hope that we as a group can provide enough insight, to share some of those lessons and maybe add 10 years of experience to someone who's somewhere in the middle of that starting.
Yeah. No, that's very, very true. And like you said, right, the beauty, let me start from the top, right? The beauty of Coffee Futures Fund is having a sounding board, right? It's not about a person, an individual, an operator having all the experiences that they need, or being the smartest person, or having the, being the most passionate person to succeed in a coffee shop. Just like coffee business, it's any business, right? You don't need to be the best at everything. What you need is clarity. You could be wrong, but what you need is clarity. And everything amplifies, and your likelihood of success increases manifold if you have the right sounding board. I think that is, and this is exactly what you were talking about. And this is exactly what I feel is missing today, because imagine a typical coffee shop operator or owner, right? Of course, they start from a place of passion. They want to do because they love to do this. They love the coffee and the people that come with it. But what happens is, so they have some why that they start with. This is the reason I want doing this. But what happens is, then they get lost in the mix. There's a lot of conditioning that's happening because of social media. So you're seeing what's looking great on social media, and then are like, you know what, this is what is working. Let me do it the same way. And so now you are just one of the many coffee shops, cookie cutter strategy. So you have suddenly lost your voice. You started with having a voice, but you have lost your voice, and you don't have a lot of people around you who can, sort of ask those sharp questions, who can help you show that tough love. It's not about just critical feedback. It's you need people who see the value in you, who see the why in you, and help you get there. And that is the beauty I feel, which is missing today, and which our mentors, you, Dale, can actually bring. You can bring that lens to people so that they don't get lost in the mix.
For sure. The only other thing I'd say, because I said a lot about like to be like, what are these extremes and don't be stuck in the middle. The clarity of vision. And I'm doing some of this work myself, right? So I'm also, I'm excited to be a part of this because I'm also starting a business. And every business you start, even when you're really experienced, you want to be in touch with other people on that journey. That I'm currently thinking about USPs, right, for branding. But like, hey, but what are we really special at? And the truth is, thing that I've done or I've seen has been done before somewhere, maybe not in that exact combination. But part of your clarity can be, I want to do a business like this one that I've seen, but I want to do it for these people in this place. And there are huge opportunities for people to set up businesses in places that are underserved, or for people that are underserved, or, that variation and clarity around that can mean that you can have a lot of those cookie cutter, like traditional things that we know work,
Yeah.
but there is like an intentional choice or why or reason that it's going to be different. I do think there's also a huge opportunity for lots of businesses to succeed that no one will notice, right? That no one on the grand scheme of things, that like looking at the US market will pick out this, chain with 12 cafes, right? If you have 12 cafes that are really well run, that are really adding value to their community, that can be a really good business, right? So I think you don't want to get lost in the middle. You can learn a lot from the best operators, which often will be chains. You can make intentional decisions around what you're choosing. And again, if you have that why and you have that clarity, you can test everything. Like, so let's say, because I work with some traditional machine companies and I work with some automated bean to cup machine companies, right? And people ask me, well, which one should I get for my cafe? There is no right answer, right? There are trade-offs for each, and you can run a high volume business with a high labor cost where every coffee is made by you can have traditional equivalent with 9 or 10 like supplements. So actually it's fully automated. It's just with the right brands or the right storytelling or whatever. Or you can have a fully automated business in a small like community cafe, lower your cost of training, whatever. It doesn't matter, but it does matter to your why and your clarity. And once you
Mm-hmm.
understand, okay, who are we trying to serve? What are we trying to do for them? And test the decision making process. And you go, okay, so if we're about being artisanal, does having the automated machine support that message or not? And if it doesn't, that's okay. So you can go with the other machine. And the same with everything else that you choose to do. So it could be that, right, I'm setting up a cafe in a university town in, I want to say in Colorado. Colorado has too many great coffee companies. So it feels like there's always somebody looking for a great job in Colorado. But you, like, your thing could be, but I'm dealing with this community in this city. what did they value? Does this machine or does this price point or does this offer support that here? And you can test the things like, so that's why that's so important. And I think it's clarity over your goal, how big we want to be, who do we want to support, all of those things that almost, they go before, like often when we talk about business plans, we talk about like the financial side of it. Financial side is also easy to a degree once you know the tools and you have people to help you, if you can answer those questions. Because if you know who you're serving and you know how many of them are and how many of them drink coffee, you can then figure out how many of them are close to the location you're looking at and what that will cost, right?
Yeah. So true, right? The fundamental is super clear on your why, what you're doing, who are you serving, and then rest of it just gets easy in terms of then it's execution, knowing your finances, and then getting some help around it. So love that. That's awesome.
I am really excited about the opportunity that Coffee Futures Fund offers new emerging businesses to improve their opportunity to succeed and drive their business forward. And that won't just be the ones who make it all the way through the course we're running, but for anyone, like to talk to our mentors, to talk to the other business owners on that journey. I think that's just such a great springboard and catalyst to support success. So I would encourage anyone who is on that journey, who is planning their business, or is right in those kind of early stages of, sitting at their side and building their dream coffee business. When you start listening to this, or when you're listening to these podcasts, you should apply. There's nothing to lose. There is something to gain. I'm incredibly excited about the opportunity it offers me as a mentor to work with exciting new businesses and people that will have different ideas around coffee to me, that will stimulate me, that will excite me, that will help me question my ideas, as well as allow me to be a part of their journey. So yeah, I'm really excited about everything that this can be. I am an optimist, so I think we are going to drive some success, but I also think we are going to benefit from being a part of some really exciting new businesses that they grow, that are going to happen anyway, but might happen a little faster, a little stronger, a little sooner because of the additions.
That's it for this episode of Inside the Grind. If something here helped, make sure to subscribe and pass it to another coffee shop or a friend. We all need each other more than we admit. To learn more or join the community, head to coffeefutures.fun. This movement is just getting started. Until next time, keep brewing. Your shop matters more than you know.